delegates, Director General, in my capacity as the outgoing president of the 73rd World Health Assembly, I am pleased to welcome you all once again. It was just over a year ago that I addressed this august body for the first time, in circumstances very similar to the one in which we are meeting today. As I noted, it was an honor and privilege for me personally and for my country, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, a small archipelago member state of the Caribbean community.
Requirements. And today we must build on the experience that we have gained in the white heat of the crisis as we move forward and seek to further develop these projects and launch them on a greater scale. These are innovative projects, and they really are an opportunity that we can grasp if we are to build a global health protection system with the WHO at its very heart. We need to restore confidence in multilateral solutions. We need to ensure that borders remain open to trade. And let us say once again here, something that has been clearly demonstrated to all in recent months. Let us say once again, no country can manage this crisis alone. Multilateral cooperation is vital. That's more obvious than ever. But it's not enough just to say that. You have to do something about it. And that means you need a clear governance structure, a universal health architecture. Having said that, it brings me very naturally to my second point, my second priority, and that is strengthening the role of the WHO. The crisis we are living through shows clearly something that was already self-evident to many people. It shows clearly that we need to strengthen WHO. Its normative, technical and operational mandates need to be enhanced. Yes, we see more clearly than ever today that we need WHO, and we need WHO to be strong. We expect a lot from WHO, and we want WHO to be effective in leading crisis response. That means that as member states, we have to give WHO the competence it needs to do its job, and we have to give it predictable, independent funding. And this is particularly important when it comes to the Health Emergencies Programme. That being so, let me state that Switzerland supports the idea of a treaty on pandemics. The purpose of this would be to enhance and strengthen the role of the WHO and also to ensure better implementation of the IHRs. Over recent years, many countries, including Switzerland, have truly sought to implement all of the requirements that are placed upon them by the IHRs, and we now recognize that in Switzerland we
to the phenomenon of vaccine reticence in all of our countries. This is no longer a matter for individual countries. It has become a pandemic as dangerous as COVID-19 itself and will cause millions more of our people to be infected and all our economies to decline. Vaccine reticence now needs a global response that is no less comprehensive and intense than the response to the pandemic itself. We have to collectively educate our peoples of the value and benefits of inoculation to themselves, to their loved ones, the wider society, and the global community as a whole. Mr. President, our world is in a global crisis. This Assembly must act now to imbue all our societies with the confidence that we, the governments, are acting in solidarity to take back our world from the stranglehold of this pandemic and to set our peoples free. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. I have the honor now to invite the Prime Minister of Spain, His Excellency Pedro Sanchez Perez Castellón, to address us.
Señoras, señores,
Dear ladies and gentlemen, today the World Health Assembly starts. This is a meeting that is absolutely fundamental for the future of the global health system. The pandemic is not over, although in some countries we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We must continue to face it with conviction. And the priority now is to guarantee universal access to vaccines. That is why my government has launched a multilateral initiative, Vaccines for All, which addresses the global challenge of vaccine production as well as distribution in all of its complexity. In short, we propose to act simultaneously on 3 fronts that right now hinder equitable access to vaccines. First of all, we must share knowledge of all kinds, including the transfer of know-how and technology and the aspects related to intellectual property. To this end, Spain has formally joined the CTAP, the COVID-19 Technology Access Pool initiative, as a platform that can facilitate these knowledge exchanges. We invite governments, and especially the pharmaceutical industry, to join it so that the initiative can achieve tangible results. Intellectual property rights must, of course, be part of the solution, but we must move quickly in other areas as well. Therefore, secondly, we must take all measures that allow us to increase production exponentially and in the short term. To do so, we must be able to identify global production capacities and help match supply and demand in this area. Furthermore, all trade barriers along the value chain, which encompasses both vaccines and the components and supplies necessary to produce them, must be eliminated. Third, we have to facilitate distribution. This involves increasing financial and non-financial contributions to the ACT Accelerator. Spain made a commitment to contribute 125 million euros, and we will continue to contribute. Spain is going to send millions of vaccines to Latin America thanks to the COVAX facility. It is also essential that the necessary capacities of vaccine recipient countries are enhanced to process, store, distribute, and administer vaccines. This is especially relevant in fragile context, and for this, ACTE's work on health systems is incredibly important. In addition, we propose that a public-private partnership be created between airlines, governments, and international organizations to facilitate such a distribution. Only by working together in all of these areas will we be able to rein in the pandemic and to do so without leaving anyone behind. If we have learnt anything, it is that we must strengthen the global architecture to be better prepared to face the different global challenges. We have worked intensively over the last year to take concrete action. It is now time to implement them. We are in favor of adopting an international treaty that establishes the objectives and fundamental principles of the collective action necessary to tackle future pandemics. We must harness the momentum and political commitment at the highest level derived from the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure the long-term political and financial investment that, as we have seen, global health emergencies require. We need a holistic approach, taking into account human and environmental health, which are two sides of the same coin, and I'm convinced that this treaty is the best way to make it happen. Director General, you know well that you can count on Spain's support so that the WHO continues to lead the way forward. We have done so in the past few months and the past few years. You are carrying out this leadership, and if we act together, and I am sure that we will be able to come out stronger from this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. I have the pleasure to now invite the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Tonga, His Excellency, the Honorable Reverend Dr. Pohiva Tohioniti. Sir, you have the floor.
WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, President, Your Excellency Ms. Keva Bain, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegations of member states, guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of His Majesty's government, I'd like to join others in welcoming us all to the 74th World Health Assembly. As I join you virtually today, I am proud to say that the Kingdom of Tonga is one of the few countries in the world to be completely COVID-19 free. Tonga activated early its national task force for COVID-19 jointly with the National Emergency Management Committee in February 2020, even before the first case was reported in the Pacific. The Joint Committee developed an action plan and issued early travel advisories, diversion orders, regulations, and policies to facilitate rapid response. Heeding WHO's warnings, we knew from the very beginning that we must act decisively to protect our people. So already by March 2020, we had declared COVID-19 a national public health emergency. We worked quickly to put infrastructure in place, refurbishing and renovating facilities to serve as quarantine and treatment centers, and establishing a brand new laboratory with gold standard RT-PCR technology. We trained our health staff, including in the outer islands, so that they would be ready to treat cases. And we scaled up mental health and psychological support to help our people cope with this difficult time. And now we are working to vaccinate the population. To date, we have reached more than 25% of our target population. Through all of this and through the cooperation of our health, His Majesty's Armed Forces, police and border control staff, along with the more than 100,000 people who make up Team Tonga, we have so far been able to keep COVID-19 at bay. Of course, none of this would have been possible if it were not for the support we received from WHO and key donor partners. WHO has been instrumental in helping us to ensure that our response measures are based on the best possible data and science. I thank Director General Dr. Tedros for his strong visionary leadership, and Western Pacific Regional Director Dr. Takeshi Kasai for his deep understanding and appropriate guidance targeted to the Pacific Island countries. In addition, we have received direct technical and financial assistance from the Asian Development Bank, Pacific Community, UNICEF, World Bank, and the governments of Australia, China, India, Japan, New Zealand, UK, and USA, along with the support provided through those behind COVAX, such as the European Union. For this, we are very grateful. On that note of collaboration, I want to take this opportunity to remind us all why we are here today. We are here brought together by the World Health Organization because we are faced by tremendous challenges that can only be addressed through collective action by all of us. Today, we face the COVID-19 pandemic, and our only way out of this is by working together. But we will face further pandemics and other issues which threatens lives, livelihoods, and health. In the Pacific, for example, we are all too aware of the increasing impacts of climate change and how it threatens our people. We cannot effectively address these issues without the convening power of a body like WHO. So, over the next 5 days, I call upon all of us to put aside our differences and come together collectively to address our common threat. Let's work together to build the sustainable systems that will ensure that all countries are able to meet future health needs. Let history show that the leaders of today had the courage to act collectively for the betterment of humanity. Only then will we be able to build for a better future for the globe, for a healthier, safer, and fairer world for all. Tuafat.
Thank you, Excellency. I am delighted to now invite the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, to address us.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought a tsunami of suffering. Over 3.4 million lives have been lost. Some 500 million jobs have gone. Trillions of dollars have been wiped from global balance sheets. The most vulnerable are suffering most, and I fear this is far from over. I pay tribute to the frontline health workers who are the heroes of this pandemic. Millions of healthcare professionals continue to put themselves in harm's way every day. We owe them our deepest appreciation. This includes our colleagues at the World Health Organization who are working around the world to support member states in saving lives and protecting the vulnerable. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, from the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, I have warned of the dangers of two-speed global response. Sadly, unless we act now, we face a situation in which rich countries vaccinate the majority of their people and open their economies, while the virus continues to cause deep suffering by circling and mutating in the poorest countries. Further spikes and surges could claim hundreds of thousands of lives and slow the global economic recovery. COVID-19 cannot be beaten one country at a time. We need coordinated global action in 3 areas to put the world on the path towards recovery and to achieve the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. First, the world must respond resolutely and in solidarity to stop the virus. World leaders must urgently step up with a global plan for equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, tests, and treatments. This starts with funding the ACT Accelerator and its COVAX facility to deploy life-saving tools to the poorest countries on a global scale. But that is not enough. We are at war with the virus. We need the logic and urgency of a war economy to boost the capacity of our weapons, the vaccines. On Friday, I called on the G20 to set up a task force that brings together all countries with vaccine production capacities, the World Health Organization, the ACT Accelerator partners, and international financial institutions able to deal with the pharmaceutical companies and other key stakeholders. It should aim to at least double manufacturing capacity by exploring all options, from voluntary licenses and technology transfers to patent pooling and flexibility on intellectual property rights. The task force should address equitable global distribution by using the ACT Accelerator and its COVAX facility. And it should be co-convened at the highest levels by the major powers who hold most of the global supply and production capacity, together with the multilateral system. I am ready to mobilize the entire United Nations to support these efforts. Second, we must bolster primary health care systems and universal health coverage. COVID-19 cannot be seen in isolation from the fundamental problems with our health systems: inequality, underfunding, complacency, neglect. With the right primary health care systems in place, we will recover more